When you're starting out a drawing, try to press lightly. This is an example of pressing hard. The line is dark. As I start to press less hard, the line starts to get softer and lighter. These lines over here are easier to erase. And the best way to use an eraser, I like to use these big ones, is to hold my hand down on the paper so it doesn't slide around, and take the edge of it and erase it. And look how nicely that erases on the page. Now I'm going to try to erase the dark line. And that does not erase so well. And you can still see all of the lines underneath. So in any drawing, draw light until you get it right. Then you can trace over with a Sharpie or marker. I can use one crayon to create an entire picture. So if I take the tip and I press hard, the line will be dark. That helps to create good outlines that will show up on my drawing. If I want to press lighter, I can color around it using the same color, and I'm pressing less hard, less pressure. And I can still see the edge outline of my objects because I am pressing lightly. The other thing I'm doing with my crayon is pressing on the side of the crayon, not just the tip. If you color with the tip, your coloring will not be as neat. So if you press on the side, it will also keep your crayon sharp, and it will fill in all of the white spaces that were left behind when you were only using the tip. Next, we're going to talk about coloring. So when you create a shape and you plan to color it in, if you color in all different directions, the coloring isn't going to look as neat, and it's not going to fill in the spaces very well. If you color in one direction, that works a lot better. And sort of use the side of your colored pencil. Do you see how it's filling in those spaces a lot better? And this looks a lot neater than this. When using marker to fill in shapes, using the tip doesn't work super well. It leaves a lot of spaces. Same thing for the skinny markers. If you're using the skinny markers to color in a big area, it doesn't work so well. It's better to use a thick marker for big spaces. So here would be an example of filling it in a little better using the flat side of the marker. And what I'm going to do is create a bumper zone. So I'm going to go nice and slow around the edges. I'm taking my time and tracing around those edges to create that bumper zone. And then I'm going to color all in one direction with the flat side of my marker. And do you see how much nicer that shape looks now because it's been filled in and all the lines are going in the same direction? Something else to think about with markers is if the marker is working well enough. This one is nice and bright and the color comes out well. This one's a marker that's been used a little bit longer, and the color is not very nice and it's kind of scratchy looking. These kinds of markers you can give to Mrs. Peterson to get rid of, and we'll trade it out with a better marker. When you're closing a marker cap, also remember to close it all the way. So when you're closing it, this might look closed, but that's how it gets dried out, like this. So it's important to click the marker cap on so that our markers stay nice and fresh. Another cool technique you can do is blending. So if I colored lightly with the purple, like I did here, I can take another color and blend it on top. This creates a lot of cool details. And I'm also pressing lightly with the color that I'm blending on top. So that way they can mix and blend. If your color is really dark like this, and you try to color another color on top, that color isn't going to show up as nice as it does on the lighter shaded crayon. Using colored pencil can also do the same effect with blending. The only thing is you want to have a sharp pencil. Coloring with a dull pencil doesn't look very good and leaves scratchy marks. You want to make sure your pencil is nice and sharp before you start. Oil pastels are another technique you can use, or tool you can use to blend with. So if you always start with the lightest color first, and this one's a little dirty, so I'm going to clean it off on a paper towel by just rubbing the edge. Then I'm going to take my oil pastel and just color lightly to start. And then I'm going to take the darker blue and I'm going to press lighter with the darker color, otherwise it overpowers. If you want it to really blend well and have a smooth transition, go back over the top with the lighter color again. And do you see how it made it smoother? Then you can keep coloring and blend in even more colors. If you want to create a lighter color, what you can do is color lightly with a dark color and then take white and color over the top, and that will make the color smoother and also lighter. So do you see how the red turned to pink? I'm gonna try this with a crayon, and it doesn't show up very bright. It shows up, but it's very dull. We have a different kind of crayon called a construction paper crayon. They come in black wrappers like these, so you can tell the difference because it's a different color wrapper. When I color with this green, the color is much brighter. The other cool tools that you can use on black or dark paper are these metallic colored pencils. So to add really cool details, these colors will show up on the black paper really well. Same thing for oil pastels. Oil pastels will show up just as well. So for example, a yellow marker will not show up very well. A yellow oil pastel, on the other hand, shows up very, very bright. So this is perfect for adding stars or bright things onto a dark collage or background in drawing. Lines can also create what we call texture. So by using short lines like this, you can create fur or grass simply by making them overlap. You can use cracked lines like this, jagged, make it look rocky, like a rock wall. You could make ripples in water by making little lines go around. And texture gives artwork detail. Here is another example of texture. We have wood grain. As you can see, the lines that make up this pattern create the illusion of wood grain. This was created using a texture plate. We have many varieties. How it works is by taking the texture plate, which has raised edges. You can feel the bumps on the plate. You're going to put it underneath your paper, wherever you would like the texture to show up. Then you're going to choose your color. The better crayons to use for this are the peeled crayons. So I'm going to pull out a red for red brick. And I'm going to make sure I take my fingers and my thumb and I hold down the paper nice and tight so the paper does not slide around. And I'm going to rub the top of the paper. And wherever those raised marks are underneath is where the texture is showing up. And I'm making sure to rub on the side of my crayon, not the tip of my crayon. This works much better with the side of your crayon.